Good evening and welcome all of you to our online classes. And as you all know that I have discussed title and the theme of this chapter of this second prose, Lost Spring, in the last session. And today we are going to discuss the detailed explanation or the summary of the chapter. So, as you all know that the chapter has been divided into two parts. I have told you this in the last session that the chapter has been divided into two parts. The first part is of a boy Sahib-e-Alam, who is a rag picker. Now, who is a rag picker? What is the job of a person who picks rags? Now, rag picker is a person who collects garbage from garbage dumps or garbage heaps. So a person who finds something valuable so that he can sell it out in the market to earn some money, to earn his livelihood. So a person who gathers or who collects rags or garbage from garbage dumps is a rag picker. So the your first story is about a rag picker named Sahib-e-Alam, and the second story is of a boy named Mukesh who works as a who works in a bangle making industry as a bangle making laborer. So now we are going to discuss the first part of the chapter, that is about Sahib-e-Alam. And first of all, the introduction of this boy Sahib-e-Alam. Sahib-e-Alam, he came from Bangladesh when Bangladesh surrendered in 1971. Bangladesh surrendered in 1971 when there was a war between India and Pakistan. And during that war of 1971, Bangladesh surrendered, means that Pakistan divided or separated from Bangladesh, a new country established. But soon after, sometimes Bangladesh, there were so many floods occurred in that place, and the whole place got destroyed. And the people who lived in Bangladesh, who lived in Dhaka at that time, they left with no means of survival. There was no survival for them. And to earn their livelihood, to earn their living, they were compelled to move to Delhi. In Delhi at Simapuri. So Simapuri is basically a slum area of Delhi. Now it is not a slum area, but few years back, 10 or 15 years back, it was actually Simapuri, Shahadra, Sirampur. These were the areas which were the slum of there was a slum of Delhi. So this Sahib-e-Alam belongs to the community or the caste of rag pickers, and the families who live at Simapuri, they all are into this business of rag picking. They all pick rags. Their children pick rags for their survival, for their lives, for their livelihood, and for their living. So for them, for these rag pickers, for these children like Sahib-e-Alam and other, rag picking is a means of survival for them. So the story starts with the boy Sahib-e-Alam. So narrator straight away asked a question, that why you have left the green fields of Dhaka and you moved to Delhi. You were having your own green fields, you were having farmlands, and in that farmland you can cultivate crops and you can earn your living. So what is the requirement? What is the compulsion because of which you have moved or migrated to Delhi? To that Sahib-e-Alam replied that long ago they have lost their property, they have lost all of their farmland, and they left with no means of survival. As I have told you, they left with no means of survival, and that is why they were compelled to move to Delhi, to Simapuri. And as I have told you, that Simapuri is basically a slum area located in Delhi 15 or 20 years back. So the story starts with a conversation between Sahib-e-Alam and Anis Jan. So the conversation started that why you pick rags, why you do this thing of picking rags. So to that Sahib-e-Alam replies in a very genuine tone, and replied practically, and the answer was that he had nothing else to do. Because he had nothing else to do, that is why he is picking rags. Very practical answer he gave. So he has nothing else to do, and that is why he is picking up rags. So Anis Jung, author says that why don't you do some other thing? Why don't you go to school and educate yourself? So to that Sahib-e-Alam says that there is no school in my locality. There is no school in my locality. If they build one, then I will certainly join that school to educate myself. Now Anis Jung asked a question to Sahib-e-Alam that if I open a school in your locality, will you come to my school? To that Sahib-e-Alam replied positively. He said that of course I will join your school, but please tell me that when your school is going to be ready or completed. Now that was a casual conversation going on between Sahib-e-Alam and Anis Jung. Anis Jung was not sincere or serious about the promise or about the option or the alternative which Anis Jung has gave to Sahib-e-Alam. She was not at all serious. She just said casually that if I open a school, then will you come to my school to educate yourself? And he replied. And Anis Jung, she was not aware of this thing that Sahib-e-Alam will take her remark seriously. So as a result, 2 or 3 days after, this boy Sahib-e-Alam came rushing towards Anis Jung and he asked Sahib-e-Alam, is your school ready? Now when this boy asked Anis Jung, author, that is your school ready, she felt embarrassed. She felt embarrassed on the promise which she had made to that boy, because she knew it very well that whatever promise she had made to that boy Sahib-e-Alam, that I will build a school for you, and whatever the promise which she had given to that boy, that promise is bleak. That promise is not completely worth. That promise is not completely fulfilled and cannot be fulfilled by Anis Jung. She was not at all serious at that moment. So she felt embarrassed on her statement, on her promise which she had made. But in the end, she realizes that there is no harm in making such promises. There is no harm in making such promises to these poor children, because their world is completely filled with such kind of bleak promises. Their world is full of such bleak promises which are never meant, which are never fulfilled. Promises which are never fulfilled. So their world, the world of such children, of these poor children, is full of such kind of promises who are never fulfilled by anyone, and especially, basically, and technically, the powerful and influential people. So the conversation moves ahead. Conversation between Anis Jung and Sahib-e-Alam moves ahead. That why you roam in the streets of Delhi bare feet. Bare feet means without any shoe or slipper. So Anis Jung asked a question to Sahib-e-Alam that why you and your friends wander around or walk around in the streets of Simapuri barefoot. She already knew the reason that why these boys, why these children wander around or roam here and there in the streets of Delhi. What is their purpose? Their purpose is to pick rags, to pick garbage from the garbage heap or the garbage dumps. But the question here which Anis Jung asked is that why you roam here and there bare feet without wearing a slipper or a shoe? To that question, Anis Jung replied. Because the boy replied, one of the boy of that gang of rag pickers replied that he does not have any slippers. He does not have any shoe to wear. So that is why I don't wear shoes. And the other boy replied that if he had a pair of shoes, then he will throw them. And why he will throw them? A boy replied, why he will throw them? He will throw them because he is having no habit of wearing shoes. he is much more comfortable bare feet. Instead of wearing shoes or slippers, he is much more comfortable in walking bare feet in the streets of Delhi. So now Anis Jung concluded something, that these children are very poor, and actually what they are doing, they are actually hiding their perpetual state of poverty. They are hiding their never-ending state of poverty. This is simply an excuse. That it is their tradition that they go bare feet in the streets of Delhi, and everywhere they go without shoes or slippers. So it is just an excuse. It is just an excuse that it is our tradition that we don't wear shoes and slippers. But what they are actually doing, Anis Jung has concluded. She has completely understood that these poor children are making an excuse to hide their perpetual state of poverty, means never-ending state of poverty. So, with that incident, author Anis Jung she reminded of a story once told by a man who came from Udupi. A story who was narrated to Anis Jung by a man who came from Udupi. Udupi is basically a town in southern part of India. So he came from, Anis Jung narrated a story by a man who came from Udupi. And what was that story? The story is that one day he saw a boy. And the boy and his father, they both lived there in a temple, and the father was a priest of that temple. And every day he saw that boy used to make prayer in front of goddess. And what prayers he used to make in front of goddess before going to school. The prayer which he used to make is that goddess, I want a new pair of shoes. That is the prayer which he made to goddess. That he wanted a new pair of shoes. Few years later, when Anis Jung visited that same temple in Udupi, he saw another boy, another priest who was serving that temple, and the boy was different. After 15 or 20 years, things changed. The priest of that temple changed. The boy who used to make prayer to that goddess for having new pair of shoes, that completely changed. So the things were changed in those 20 years, and after those 20 years, what was the thing? What was she noticed? The thing which she noticed is that the boy was making prayer in the same manner in which the other boy of that priest 20 years back used to make prayer of having new pair of shoes. But this time, his prayer was completely different. After 20 years, when Anis Jung visited Udupi, he saw this difference, that the boy was making a prayer, and the boy was completely different. Boy is different, and the priest is different. And what prayer this boy is making this time? The prayer which he is making is that he may never lose his new pair of shoes. So you see the difference of the condition. Difference between the prayers which both the boys made. One made 20 years back and one made in a present day. So what is the difference between those two prayers? The difference is that the first boy wanted new pair of shoes, and the second boy was praying that he might never lose his new pair of shoes. It means that he already owns a new pair of shoes. What does it show? What is the moral of the story? What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that the things have changed. In those 20 years, things have changed financially. Things have changed economically for everyone. 20 years back, the priest was impoverished. He was poor. He was unable to provide everything whatever his boy, his son demands. But 20 years hence, things changed. They changed for betterment. They changed economically. They changed financially in a good way. And that is why this boy is making this prayer this time, that he might not lose his new pair of shoes. So this shows the difference of financial background, that both the children who were making prayers, they belong to different financial background. One boy is of a priest who is very poor, and another one is a boy of a priest, once again not so poor. So difference of financial backgrounds. So same is the case with these boys, Sahib-e-Alam and other rag pickers, that there are so many prayers which are unheard by God. There are so many prayers which are unheard by God, and things have changed financially for betterment, economically for better. But there is no betterment. There is no betterment for some class, for some classes of our society, like rag pickers. So there is no change in terms of their finances, in terms of their financial condition. There is no change. So this incident shows, the purpose of narrating this incident is that this incident shows that things have changed so much for betterment and for positivity in the due course of time, but not for everyone. Not for everyone. Things have not changed for betterment, not for everyone. There are still people who are crippled. There are still people who are struggling to earn their living, to earn the basic resources of life. There are still n number of people. Now, with this, Anistam asked that, do you know the name, or do you know the meaning of your name, Sahib-e-Alam? He asked this question to this boy Sahib-e-Alam, that do you know what is the meaning of your name, Sahib-e-Alam? The boy replied, I do not know the name, I do not know the meaning of my name. Anis Jung, author, did not tell him the meaning of his name. And why she did not tell him the meaning of his name? Because it would be difficult for him to believe what his name actually meant. The meaning of his name, Sahib-e-Alam, is Lord of Universe. Lord of Universe, who is taking care of all the beings of this universe, who is at the supreme seat of the universe, who is the driving force of the universe. That is the Lord of the universe, and that is the meaning of Sahib-e-Alam. And if this boy come to know about the meaning of his name, then it would be difficult, it would be a hard time for him to believe that his name actually means Lord of the universe. So up to now we have seen that Sahib-e-Alam and Anis Jung, author and Sahib-e-Alam, they have conversations with each other. Now Anis Jung will tell the ground realities of these rag pickers. What is the ground reality of these rag pickers? Listening to this story of Sahib-e-Alam, one might feel that this boy is not having any sort of complaint to his life, whatever life he is living right now. He is not having any sort of complaint. But actually, there is a complaint. There is a problem, but this boy has never realized it. And no one realizes at that point of time. Go back to the theme, lost spring. Spring is the season where a child gets novelty, new thoughts, new vision, and no one understands or take care about the things which are concerned with life. All these things come when a person becomes mature. So the story, which seems like it is very light-hearted, it is very easy for this boy to live life of a rag picker, but it is not that easy. But the thing is, The thing is that he has never paid attention towards the difficulties of his life. But the difficulty in his life will definitely come. And author knows it very well. That one day he has to face those difficulties. And so now what author will narrate us? What author will point out? The author will point out the perpetual state of their poverty, the never-ending state of their poverty. Now she will bring about the conclusion of the things which she had understood by making conversations with Sahib-e-Alam and by going to this place Simapuri, who is a slum area where 10,000 rag pickers are living under pathetic conditions, who are compelled to live without any facilities, without any basic facilities provided by government. Neither they have electricity supply, nor proper water supply, or any other sort of facilities which are required for survival. So in the next part, I will discuss about all these problems which author noticed about Sahib-e-Alam, his community of rag pickers, and the problems which she had noticed while visiting that place Simapuri, where 10,000 rag pickers were living under pathetic conditions. Till then, thank you.